All right, welcome to pro football. First 50 years where we take the past and we bring it back to life. Now, I'm strictly talking the first 50 years here. 1920 to 1970. And especially if you're going to go back in time and check out a game like from the 20s or the 30s. Oh, sure, yeah, you can go online, find a box score, who won, who lost, who scored a touchdown, how far a field goal was somebody kicked, what the attendance is, where the game was played at. You might find starting lineups for each team. But exactly what happened during the game? Well, thanks to old newspaper articles, we could take a little bit of a deeper dive into each and every game during the first 50 years of professional football. Now, a little news flash here for you. Ain't no fancy videos or nothing like that. All there is you and me for the next 30 to 60 minutes. So if that's all right with you, let's get it on in today's game. Exhibition game. We're going to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Franklin Field. Classic stadium. The Baltimore Colts at the Philadelphia Eagles, September 13th, 1959. The old exhibition game. This is one of the final exhibition games for the season. Maybe each team would have one more after this. But both seasons for both these teams were very successful. Of course, the Colts won the whole kit and caboodle. They also won the whole kit and caboodle in '58. The Colts had a very successful exhibition season. Although, once again, exhibition is exhibition. But if you're playing the games, you do like to win the games, right? But that wasn't quite the case in this game. The Eagles did not have a very particularly good exhibition season, but once again, it's only exhibition. Spoiler alert, I do apologize. They would open up a can of whoop butt in this game against the Colts. But for the Eagles, let's pull up their schedule here. Very successful season for them. They believe they won 2 games in '58. You go from 2 wins to 7 wins, and then in 1960 they win the whole thing. That's what you want to do, right? You just want incremental gains. They went from 2 to 7 to 10. I mean that's pretty darn good. But this very very successful season for them. Well, as I said, the preseason once again just the preseason. Right. Interestingly, though, they were 2-4. The 2 teams they beat were the 2 teams that went to the championship game. But once again, it's only exhibition. But they lost a tough one here to the Bears in the Manning Bowl in Lynn, Massachusetts. For crying out loud, huh? Then they beat the Giants here in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Then they played the Green Bay Packers. It's like, let's take the Packers, right? And let's take a team way out in the East, and let's send them all the way across the country and play in Portland, Oregon. Right? Then they played the Lions in Toledo, Ohio. Then the last 2 games were obviously it was at Franklin Field, home of the Eagles, and then Memorial Coliseum, home of the Rams. But the Eagles played a lot of neutral site games. So this one here was in Pennsylvania, but it was in Hershey, Pennsylvania. But you see here, they did a fantastic job in this game against the Colts. Well, once the regular season started, they were almost like clockwork, right? They lost their first game against a very good 49ers team. It's like they lost 1, then they win 2. Then they lost 1, then they win 2. Then they lost 1. Check this out. They won 2. Then they lost 1, right? It just, yeah. Going into the final 3 weeks of the season, the Giants had 2 losses. The Eagles had 3 losses. The Eagles were only 1 game out of first place after 9 weeks with 3 games left to go in the season. Now, I said you win 2 games the prior season. And then you come into the final 3 weeks, and they only had 3 losses. The Giants had 2. You only have 3 losses, and you're only 1 game out of first place. Man, I'll tell you what, the Eagle fan base had to be very, very excited. Unfortunately, they would get blown out in this game against the Steelers. Now, they still had a chance. They had 4 losses, 2 weeks left to go. The Giants had 2. So what they had to hope for was the Giants would lose their final 2 home games, or games. They both weren't at home. Lose the final 2 games, which didn't happen. And the Eagles would have to win their final 2 games of the season, which didn't happen. But regardless, he said the Giants would wind up with a 10-2 record, the best record in the NFL. Didn't help them in the championship game. But the Giants were 10-2. The Eagles tied for second place with the Cleveland Browns. Both teams were 7-5. Now, we go over to the Colts. The Colts had obviously they had the trifecta. They had a very good exhibition season, very good regular season, and outstanding, might I add, championship game. Actually, the Giants were winning. If they could have stopped the game after about 46 minutes or something like that, the Giants would have been champions. But actually, going into the fourth quarter, the Giants were winning the championship game 9-7. Then the Colts rattled off 24 straight points to be up 31-9, and then the Giants scored a touchdown with about a minute and a half or so to go in the game. And but you'll see here. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't done a video on this one yet. I'm not exactly sure what happened here. I mean, how they would somehow lose to the Cardinals. Unless Johnny Unitas and the whole team unless they put nothing but backups in there. That's the only thing I can kind of think of, because the Cardinals were literally maybe the worst team in football in 1959. It was close. I mean, you got the Redskins, you had the Cardinals, the Lions were not very good, and the Rams. Those 4 teams were absolutely horrible in 1959. But the Cardinals might have been the worst. But you'll notice here, I'm trying to 50. Well, okay, 57, 60. So they won 80. My math is correct there. 80-13 in the first 3 games, first 3 preseason games. They shut out the college all-stars. So actually, after the first 2 games, they were 57 points scored and only gave up 3 points. They only gave up 3 points to the Giants. But you'll notice here once again, right? They played in Chicago, Illinois. That's where the all-star game, the college all-star game was played. Then they played in Dallas, Texas, where they beat the Giants. Then they played in Baltimore, Maryland, where they played the Redskins. Then they were at Miami, Florida, where they played the Steelers. And, of course, then they played the Eagles. And then the last game was in Louisville, Kentucky against the Cardinals. So they were like freaking all over the place. What did you say here? 4 wins and 2 losses. As I said, it's only exhibition, preseason, and all that. But if you're playing the games, you do like to win them. But as we notice here, after, in the regular season, they did kind of stumble a little bit here, right? So you'll notice here, right? They won their opening game, then they lost, then they won 3 in a row, then they lost 2 in a row. They lost this one to the Summit. I mean, it just goes to show you on any given Sunday. The Redskins, the game was played in Washington. Now, of course, also because the Redskins and the Baltimore, Washington, so close in proximity, the game takes on a little bit more of a meaning. But somehow the Redskins, who were one of the worst teams in football, actually beat the Baltimore Colts 27-24. But then they lost the game here to the Browns. I think Jim Brown scored 5 touchdowns in this one. So, but they were 4-3 after 7 games. They had 5 weeks left to go, and they were 4-3. They were actually 2 games out of first place. And then they would win their final 5 games, and they would finish with a record of 9-3, and obviously go on to the championship game where they hosted the championship game, and they would win 31-16. So, just the team that the Colts had was just unbelievable. They had a very, very, very good defense. It wasn't like their secondary or their linebackers were phenomenal. It was their front wall was really good, really, really good. And it was tough to run on them. And because between Big Daddy, Gene Lipscomb, and Art Donovan in the middle, it was tough to move those guys to run up the middle. And, of course, then Gino Marchetti, he run up and down a line of scrimmage like nobody's business. Also, they get pressure on the quarterback, so it made it a lot easier for their linebackers and their guys in the secondary to play. As I said, and then their offense was, my goodness, you got Lenny Moore out there running around. You got Raymond Berry, John Unitas throwing a pass to him. Obviously, the Hall of Famers, Jim Parker. So they were loaded with talent on offense. And, of course, it showed. They won their second consecutive championship, 1959. But the game is played in Franklin Field. So it's what good old Wikipedia got to say about Franklin Field. My first, not that anybody cares, but actually the only game I ever remember watching from Franklin Field, because I lived in New York at the time, so the Eagle games were not, broadcast much at all in New York because they were not very good. Of course, the Cowboys were on a lot. Yeah. But the only game that I remember seeing ever from Franklin Field was the first ever Monday Night Football game the first ever Monday Night Football, not between it, but for the Eagles and the Giants. They played each other. It was a cold November evening. It was in Franklin Field. The Eagles were wind up winning 23-20. It happened to be also the night that Howard Cosell was drunk. I think he had an interview at halftime with somebody. I can't remember. You can watch it on YouTube. The whole game is on YouTube. One of the, not many games. There's a few games from 1970, the Monday Night Football. But, there's a few Monday Night Football games early on that are in its entirety and are on YouTube. Well, that one, the Eagle and Giant game, is on YouTube in its entirety. It might be in a couple different videos. You have to piece them together, whatever. But the whole game's on there. But he got drunk, and by halftime, or somewhere along the line, he threw up on Danny Don's shoes in the booth. You can hear him, and he's like slurring his words and stuff like that. And I think at halftime, he had an interview with somebody. And I think after the interview was over, or before the third quarter started, something like that, he went back to the hotel because apparently he was drunk. But you can kind of tell he was a little under the weather there with some alcohol. So very famous game. But that's the only game I ever remember watching because the next season the Eagles went to Veterans Stadium. All right, so we got a share screen, Franklin Field, Wikipedia. Here we go. All right, it's a classic stadium. Franklin Field is a sports stadium in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, at the eastern edge of the University of Penn campus. Named after Penn's founder, Benjamin Franklin. It is the home stadium for the Penn Relays and the university's venue for football, track, field, and lacrosse. Franklin is also used for Penn students for recreation, intramural, and club sports, including touch football, cricket, commencement exercises, weather permitting, of course. Franklin Field is the oldest still operating college football site in the nation. Good. Really good. It's one of the views. I'll show you some pictures. It's just absolutely classic. Franklin Field was the first college stadium in the United States with a scoreboard and the second with an upper deck of seats. In 1922, it was the site of the first radio broadcast of a football game on WIP. WIP is still around today because depends upon how fast you drive and how the traffic is. I'm about 20 minutes from Philadelphia as I sit right here. Let's see. As well as of the first television broadcast of a football game by Philco. From 1958 through 1970, Franklin Field was the home of the Philadelphia Eagles. As I said, so 1970, the Monday Night Football game the Giants and Eagles played, that was the last year that the Eagles played at Franklin Field. And unfortunately, for the last couple of seasons, I believe it was, they had artificial turf on there. Can't stand that. It hosted the NFL championship game in December of 1960 as the Eagles beat the Packers by 4 points, 17-13. It was also Vince Lombardi's only postseason loss. He was in 10 postseason games. He was 9-1. His only loss was that one to the Eagles, 1960. Until around 1860, the grounds of what became Franklin Field served as a potter's field. The crania of some of these individuals were acquired by Samuel Morton and are now housed in the Penn Museum. Franklin Field was built for $100,000. Wow, what a bargain. It was dedicated on April 20th, 1895 for the first running of the Penn Relays. Penn Relays is a huge, huge event. What do we got here? Permanent Franklin Field construction did not begin until after the turn of the century, though. Let's see. The reconstructed and expanded Franklin Field was opened on September 26, 1903, prior to Penn's football's first game of the season when they hosted Dickinson. Let's see. There's just so much here. Rebuilding. Current stadium structure was built in 1920s, as you can see right here, right? Workmen laying bricks on the south wall of the Franklin Field. Circa 1922. Wow. Pictures from over 100 years ago. Unbelievable. The current stadium structure was built in the 20s after the original wooden bleachers were torn down. The lower tier was erected in 1922. The old wooden stands were raised immediately following the Penn Relays, and a new concrete lower tier and seating for 50,000 were built. The second tier was added in 1925. Yeah, just look at that. I mean, that's absolutely beautiful. Absolutely freaking beautiful. Franklin Field during a 1925 Penn football game. I mean, just to the outside with the brick and just absolutely beautiful. And this view here from the inside is, I'll show you some pictures. Oh, fantastic. Stadium was designed of steel and concrete in the shape of the letter U. Initial cost was estimated around $725,000. Noted Franklin Field was one of the few large fields which was built to support baseball as well as football and track. Most other large stadia were meant for only football and track. First football radio broadcast originated from Franklin Field, carried by Philadelphia in 1922 by WIP. The Democratic National Convention was held there. Thanksgiving Cornell Penn game. It's a ton of things. I mean, this is what it is right now. Right? Homecoming game in 2019. Just really a beautiful. And just this view over here is just absolutely classic. Penn Quaker football here. Penn hosts Harvard at Franklin Field. It's undated, but it's from a 1905 book. Penn and Cornell. I mean, there's a lot to be read here. All right, the Eagles played from 58 through 70. They moved to stadium in 1958 season after leaving Connie Mack Stadium. Franklin Field would seat over 60,000 for the Eagles, whereas Connie Mack had a capacity of only 39,000. Let's see. The Eagles did not pay rent for the use of Franklin Field, but because Penn was a not-for-profit organization, instead the Eagles donated between $75,000 and $100,000 per year to pay for maintenance and other expenses. But the university collected all concessions and parking revenue. So, very sadly, October 11, 1959, NFL Commissioner Burt Bell. I haven't done this game. I haven't done a video yet for the game that was played between the Eagles and the Steelers, but that'll be coming up very shortly, within a week or so. Burt Bell died at the nearby University Hospital after suffering a heart attack at Franklin Field during the last 2 minutes of the game between the Eagles and the Steelers. Now, he had heart problems. He had health issues, leading up to that. He was warned his traveling had to be held under control. He couldn't do a lot of traveling and all that stuff because of his condition. But if he was going to pass away at a football game, was sure the way he probably would have wanted to go. But and of course, the Eagles hosted the championship game on December 26, 1960. They beat the Packers. Now, ironically, right, 2 years earlier, the two franchises, the Packers and the Eagles, meaning in 1958, had finished second, last, and last in a 12-game league. So they were in 1958. The Eagles and the Packers were both atrocious. What a turnaround! Of course, once with the Packers, had a lot of it had to do with some party, but I mean, both teams finished 7-5 in '59. Both fantastic. Let's see. As the venue did not have lights at the time, the game started at noon to allow overtime to be played if required. So the game started at noon, the 1960 championship game. Of course, two infamous incidents happened in Eagles history occurred at the stadium. Santa Claus got booed, and of course, he got snowballs thrown at him. Let's see. And Howard Cosell taken ill. Well, he was taken ill. The first Monday Night Football game in 1970, in the first season. Okay. Announcer Howard Cosell was apparently drunk during the Eagles-Giant game on November 23rd. After throwing up on color commentaries Don Meredith's cowboy boots shortly before halftime, Cosell left the stadium and took a taxi back to New York City. Meredith and play-by-play announcer Keith Jackson made little mention of his departure during the second half, later denying his drunkenness. If you listen to him, he sounds drunk. He does. Cosell that he had been dizzy from running laps around Franklin Field. Yeah, right. Track before the game. Yeah, right. With track star Tommy Smith. Cosell was 52 years old at the time. Yeah, I'm sure he was probably drunk. So, I mean, just, look at this. I mean, the 1908 Army-Navy game at Franklin Field. I mean, look at the place. It's just packed. Let's get some pictures going here. It's just, some absolutely beautiful. Classic. It's just a shame. That they don't play these. I mean, the stadium where the Eagles play at now is really. I mean, I drive by it often. It's very nice from the outside. They play on grass. 2 thumbs up, Eagles. They play outside. 2 thumbs up, Eagles. And it's in the weather element. So if I had 3 thumbs, I give the Eagles. I can't stand the Eagles, but their stadium is absolutely beautiful, and it's on grass and all that stuff. And as I said, they play in the weather elements. If I had 3 thumbs, I'd give them 3 thumbs up. This dome stadium crap, you've got to be kidding me. Artificial turf, you got to be kidding me. But anyway, here, this is beautiful. Right here is the 60 championship game. It's like Paul Hornung, I guess, kicking one of his field goals. But I mean, just like this is the one end of the stadium. The building back here. Let's see here. We got this here. I don't know. You can just see it right here. Right, we see it at the end down there. Here you got this right where the track is. This is more the new. Right. This is not exactly the way it looked. Obviously back then. This is I don't know who. This might be the Falcon game. Finish Eagles Falcon. Can anyone figure out the game date? Yeah, it's the Falcons. Yeah. This what a beautiful picture. Absolutely unbelievable. I don't know what year this is. But I mean, look at those uniforms, huh? Beautiful green. Wow. Man, my goodness. Oh, there you go. There's Sonny Jurgensen and there's Tommy McDonald right there. 2 Hall of Famers. Well, it has to be after 1960 because Norm Van Brocklin was their quarterback then. And speaking of Norm Van Brocklin, here you go. It's probably the championship game right here. Right? What else we got here? There's his beginning of the game. They're shaking hands. They don't mean it, of course, but they're shaking hands. There you go, right? Look at that, huh? Beautiful. Love those uniforms. Absolutely love it. I mean, look at this, man. Just classic. I mean, there's not much to them, right? But very, very classic. Let's see what else we got here. Anything else here? Oh, here we go. Here's I guess is where they were able to play baseball, right? The configuration in there where they were able to play baseball. I'm not sure what I mean, down here you can see going down the line here is good. I'm not sure how far it is out to this wall here, but you can see the dead center field has got to be pretty far. It's got to be a heck of a shot. Let's see what else we got here. Got some old pictures here. Look at that. My goodness. Let's see what else we got here. Well, you get the idea, but I mean, just absolutely beautiful. See what we got here. Yeah, you see the buildings here. So I mean, you could see if they didn't have these buildings, or if they had stands here, they're going to even have more people in there. But just very, very, absolutely classic. There's down. There's the championship game once again. Hey, absolutely beautiful. Oh, here we go. This is really pretty. Oh, damn! I hate when they do that. I think it's small, but scoreboard there. But once again, this is more modern, but just a fantastic stadium. All right, so let's get on with a little bit of pregame action here, shall we? What do we got? Let's share the screen here. What do we got here? We got the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Going to show you a few plays that the Colts, Eubank said, really were key to them winning the championship in 1958. So we're going to go to the Richmond Times-Dispatch. The September 13th. I can find it. There we go. All right. Eubank credits four key plays with helping the Colts win the 58 title. One was the left end run, fullback trap, and they said one of the things that was like on this here was now I'm not sure if they call them the fullback trap, also the draw, but I think it was in. Well, no, I think it was in the drive that led to the tying field goal. The Amici it was like a draw play, and they said in here they talk about the fullback trap. The previous play in the sequence saw tackle Dick Modulewski of the Giants rush Unitas as it was way back to pass. John thought the best thing to do was to cool off Modulewski would be to trap him. Right, so Modulewski's here. Right, to come in here, the guard pulls out here, right? So you got the center comes over here. Now, of course, Roosevelt Greer didn't play in the game against the Colts. I think he tried in the beginning, but he couldn't. He had a problem with his leg. So the center here would have been Rosie Greer, but as I said, he didn't play in the 58 championship game. But then they came here, the guard, and they trapped Modulewski. And, of course, that led to, and then somebody – what do we got here? The tackle came over, and I guess man, he had a I don't know, man. He had to run really fast to come over here and try to wall off Sam Huff, and then Amici would kind of get the ball right here and run up the middle, and it was good for like 20 something yards or whatever. Really, really helped them big time. I was left halfback off tackle on their plays. That is down by the goal line, off tackle slant. That is probably Amici. I know Amici scored on. It was like a. When he scored, they were down at the goal line. He scored over here. So it might have been the same. It might have been an off tackle slant, but it might have been to this side over here. It might have been to the weak side. But these are some of the plays that Weeb Eubank, 4 plays here that he said were key. But you also notice too, right, that they're all runs. There's no right. Well, look, check out this here, right? See football as you've never seen it before on a GTV. Look at it. Look at that baby, huh? 1960, huh? Only $250 weekly. I wonder how many weeks you're paying that for. But I mean, look at that. Huh? Look at that. Huh? You can have all of that for $250 weekly. And look at that TV stand. I wonder if it comes with the TV stand or not. Just absolute classic. Huh? All right, now we got the Baltimore Sun, September 13th, 1959 edition of the Baltimore Sun. Let's see, what do they got to say? September 13th, Baltimore. There we go, Baltimore Sun. All right. The Colts-Eagles lineup. And there's the defensive lineup, and the substitutes. Now, if you'll notice, right, there's only 36 guys on a team. 36. That's it. Unlike the. So what do we got here? We got 11. At 11, so we got 22, right? 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Oh, 37. Okay, 37. I'm not sure what the heck. I don't know. Eagles got a few more guys. But I do know that the regular season, there's only 36 guys on a team. 36. So the Colts going into this one apparently had 37. I mean, I guess they were almost down to what they were, they're regular. But the Eagles had some cuts to do. That's I guess that they're walking in with 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43. 43 guys. So the Eagles had some cutting to do. But during the regular season, they only dressed 36 guys. Unlike the 46 we have nowadays. So 36 guys. All right. So what do we got here? What do we got? I know it's here somewhere. Here we go. Colts are the choice over the Eagles in Philadelphia. Tilt today. Oh, wait, hold on. Maybe there's a start up here. I'll continue from the first sports page. Let's see here. All right. Well, let's see here. Let's go back. All right. Is this it? Nope, that's not it. Let's see here. Whoops. I do apologize. Here somewhere. Is that it? Wow. Where on earth? Up. There it is. Okay. Colts choice over Eagles in Philadelphia tilt today. Baltimore's unbeaten Colts will put their 4-game winning streak on the line against the Eagles tomorrow afternoon at Franklin Field. A crowd of 20,000, including hundreds from Baltimore area, will be on hand for the 1:35 p.m. kickoff. The game will not be televised back in Baltimore. Despite injuries to key personnel, the Colts, defending league champions, are ruled a 10-point choice in the 5th exhibition game for both teams. Well, that would be way off. It'd be like a 32-point swing. Not only wouldn't they win by 10, I think they would lose by, I think it was like 22. Woo. That's why you don't bet on sports. Despite injuries to key personnel, the Colts, defending league champs, ruled a 10-point favorite. Although 2 of the Colts, all-pro players, and Raymond Berry and halfback Lenny Moore will not play. So that might have something to do with the fact that they only scored 13 points. Coach Weeb Eubank will start and play his other regulars most of the way. The Eagles, on the other hand, are experimenting with rookies. 4 newcomers are scheduled to start. Coach Buck Shaw of the Eagles lists rookies Darryl Ashbacher of Oregon, a left guard, J.D. Smith of Rice at right tackle on offense, and John. Hold on, let's go here. John. All right, John. One more? Nope. There we go. John Nocera of Iowa at linebacker, and Alan Miller, Boston College, at defensive back. Now, interestingly, though, John Madden had been hurt just a few weeks prior to this. He hurt his knee, and he never would play football ever again. But it worked out well for John. But he was on the 1959 Philadelphia Eagles team. Was a rookie. He was a promising rookie, but he did something to his knee. And of course, as we know, modern medicine back then was not as it was today. So whatever he did to his knee, it ended his career. Listed as probably a starter is rookie end Jerry Wilson of Auburn. Wilson will play defensive end if Don Owens is moved to tackle, where Marion Campbell, who would want to coach wasn't very successful, but he would coach the Eagles later on in the 80s. I believe he's the one that took over, I think, after Dick Vermeil left. Marion Campbell, a veteran, is doubtful because of a knee injury. While 5 rookies may start for the Eagles, the Colts have only 5 rookies on the squad. They are Jerry Richardson, who will start at offensive left end in place of injured Berry, and Dave Scherer, guard Hanson Churchwell, back Hal Lewis, and linebacker Tom Addison. But it is an old and tried veterans who makes the Eagles go. He is Norm Van Brocklin, starting his 11th year as a pro quarterback. He has lost some of his agility, which never was great, but he can pick defenses apart with his quick, short passes. Although the Eagles have won only 1 of 4 exhibitions, that the opening one against the Giants, they are leading the Eastern Division in scoring with 94 points. Outbalancing their scoring feats, however, is the lack of defense. In the 4 games, the Eagles have given up 121 points. After the Giant victory, the Philadelphia team lost to the powerful Bears 24-21, the Green Bay Packers 45-28, and then the Detroit Lions 35-24. The Colts' all-winning record was built on a 92-0 victory. No, 29-0 victory over the College All-Stars, a 28-3 victory over the Giants, 23-10 from the Washington Redskins, and a 30-21 victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Burt Rechichar and Bill Pellington will see only limited duty against the Redskins. Rechichar will be used for kickoffs and long field goal attempts. He is bothered with badly bruised ribs. Pellington has a broken hand. He can play, but the chances are the Colts won't take the chance. Lewis, the rookie halfback, also has a broken hand. He will not play, according to the Colt trainers. Let's see. George Prius is looking for a 2-bedroom furnished house in the stadium area, just in case in case you have one available in 1959 for him. Give George Prius a call. Okay, now let's go to the Lancaster Online. Oh, yeah? September 13th, 1959 edition of the Lancaster Online. Hugely popular newspaper. What do they got to say? 20,000 will see the Eagles versus the Colts. Game today in Philadelphia. There's good old Johnny Unitas. Baltimore's unbeaten Colts, one of the greatest football teams ever assembled, will make their only 1959 Philadelphia appearance this Sunday at Franklin Field, meeting the Eagles in the 5th preseason encounter for both teams. Kickoff time is 1:35 p.m., and the game will be broadcast over radio station WCAU and the Eagles Network. The same Colts team that beat the Giants in that now famous sudden death championship game last December will battle the Eagles. Baltimore's ridden roughshod over the College All-Stars, the Giants, the Redskins, and the Steelers, while the Birds, after beating the Giants, lost to the Bears, the Packers, and the Lions. Upwards of 20,000 are expected to see the teams in action Sunday afternoon. Joe Donahue, Eagles vice president, says that the ticket sale has been brisk. Ticket windows at Franklin Field will open at 9 a.m. Sunday morning. Johnny Unitas, the bargain basement quarterback, will direct the Colts. With him, the backfield will be Lenny Moore, former Penn State great from Reading, Pennsylvania, L.G. Dupree, the Fleet Texan, and Allen the Horse Amici, one of the better fullbacks in the National Football League. The Eagles' answer to his backfield will be Norman Van Brocklin, Billy Barnes, Tommy McDonald, and Walt Kowalczyk. There's the Dutchman right there. Or perhaps only 2 rookies will make the Colts. The Birds have at least 14 spots open for new men since only 21 veterans have returned from the final 1958 35-man squad. Eagles head coach Buck Short has used his new men rather freely during the 4 preseason games, but early this week at Hershey started to concentrate on one team and working with it. As it has in many games in the past, the Colts celebrated defense of Art Donovan, Gino Marchetti, Big Daddy Lipscomb, Ray Krause, Bill Pellington, Frank Szymanski, and Don Shinnick may decide the issue. The Birds' defense is good and getting better, but doesn't match the Colts. All right, I think that's it for that. All right, I got one more here. We got the Philadelphia Inquirer, the September 13th, 1959 edition of the Philadelphia Inquirer. What do they got to say? September 13th, there we go. All right. Eagles front line units to go against Baltimore. And there's Alan the Horse Amici. And once again, there's the supposed starting lineup. And the rest of the Eagles squad, the rest of the Colts squad, 1:35 kickoff time. All right. The Eagles attempt to put their best foot forward for the approval of their hometown fans Sunday afternoon, but it'll take some doing as their Franklin Field opponent is the world champion Baltimore Colts. Kickoff is 1:35 p.m. The Colts, who have almost the same cast that beat the New York Giants in the NFL sudden death playoff last year, will be seeking their 5th straight preseason victory. The Eagles will be attempting to check a 3-game slide. The Eagles scored their lone tune-up victory at the expense of the Giants, 21-17 last month at Hershey. And Coach Buck Shaw is hopeful that the homecoming will inspire another successful effort. Instead of experimenting with combination as in previous games, he plans to go with his strongest frontline units in an all-out bid for an upset. This is the only time that teams will clash this year. Of course, unless they battle in the championship game. And it's only the second time local fans have been and had an opportunity to give Baltimore firsthand appraisal. 6 years ago, the Colts came here for a regular season game and went back to Maryland on the short end of a 45-14 score. The two teams have developed a strong rivalry in preseason engaged since then. The Eagles hold a 4-3 edge in their warm-up series as a result of squeezing out a 30-28 decision at Hershey last year. Despite losses to Chicago Bears, Green Bay Packers, and Detroit Lions, the Eagles have shown promising offensive strength, but they have had a lot of shortcomings on defense. The Colts figured to provide rugged tests in both departments. They have the most feared defensive unit in football, an aggressive, hard-tackling gang headed by Art Donovan, Gino Marchetti, and the ponderous Big Daddy Lipscomb. Well, they said, for me, I can't say they're the whole. Because I'm a Giant fan. I mean, the Giants had a Hall of Fame Emlyn Tennell, right in the back. They also had a Hall of Fame middle linebacker Sam Huff. The Colts didn't have that. They had that amazing front wall, which took control of many a game, made it be tough to run against them because they just controlled the line of scrimmage, and the pass rush they can get on you was just insane. So it was their front wall. I'm not going to say their whole defense was just amazing. Was not horrible by any stretch of imagination, but all right. Let's go. What happened during the game? Well, let's see. We're going to go to the Philadelphia Inquirer. We're going to go to September 14th, 1959 edition of the Philadelphia Inquirer. And they'll. All right. Let us know what happened. All right. Good. Okay. Oh, that's the wrong one. Let me go to the other one here. All right, here we go. Van Brocklin, TD passes, sparked the Eagles to a 35-13 win. Here we go. Wow. You don't want this freaking dude getting his hands on you. The doors open for Barnes, and Billy leaps through the 9-yard gain in the first quarter to help the Eagles upset the Colts in Franklin Field. That's Big Daddy Lipscomb looming in behind Billy. Chuck Bednarik is blocking Art Donovan on the right. There's Bednarik blocking Donovan. There's Big Daddy. Whew, man. Those two guys, let me tell you what, boy. Two tough defensive tackles. Okay. The Eagles staged quite a homecoming party at Franklin Field Sunday afternoon. To the surprise delight of 15,928 sun-baked fans, they rode roughshod over the world champion Baltimore Colts 35-13 to end a 3-game losing streak in the preseason. The feared Baltimore defensive unit, which had wreaked havoc with 4 previous foes, couldn't cope with the superlative passing of Norman Van Brocklin and the dazzling receiving of alert, jet-propelled Tommy McDonald as the Colts suffered their first setback. McDonald, I tell you what, boy, Tommy McDonald, man, home run hitter. Let me tell you what. I mean, the Colts had Raymond Berry, who would run the perfect route and the hands and all of that. He'd catch it, get it away, and he's not breaking anything but Tommy McDonald, boy, you get that guy loose. Man. Home run hitter. Let's say couldn't contend with Norman Brocklin and a dazzling receiver alert. Jet-propelled Tommy McDonald as the Colts suffered their first. McDonald, former Oklahoma Scatback, who is starting his 3rd year with the Birds, was on the receiving end of 3 touchdown passes thrown by the Dutchman. And Tommy McDonald during the regular season scored 4 touchdowns in the game against the Giants, 3 pass receptions, and he returned a punt back for a touchdown as well. His receiving touchdowns covered 26, 34, and 55 yards in a display of perfect timing and accuracy by both, and beautiful maneuvering by the flanker backs. Theron Sapp, rookie from Georgia, who impressed with his hard running and pass catching and spot appearances, and Walt Kowalczyk scored from the 7 and 1 respectively, as the Eagles grabbed a 14-0 lead midway through the first half and never were heated. Some gloss was taken from the second tune-up victory. The first came over the Eastern champion New York Giants at Hershey last month, since the Colts went all the way with Ray Brown at quarterback and such proven stars as Lenny Moore, captain Ray Berry, and linebacker Leon Sanford didn't play because of injuries. Oh, wow. And Colts went all the way with Ray Brown at quarterback. Wow, so Johnny Unitas didn't even play. Wow, no wonder why. There was nothing wrong with Johnny Unitas, the talented number 1 quarterback, but Coach Weeby Bank didn't use him because he said he's trying to develop a strong replacement. In previous tune-ups, he alternated Unitas. Okay, here we go. Let me go to the next one then. He alternated Unitas. All right. With Andy Nilsson and Brown. Experiments in absence of certain regulars didn't cause any slowdown against the college all-stars, the Giants, the Redskins, and the Steelers, but the Colts found it difficult to move the ball steadily against an aroused, aggressive Eagles defensive unit. The Eagles defensive unit, spearheaded by burly Jess Richardson, Bob Pellegrini, and rookie John Nocera, provided some early inspiration by holding the Colts for 4 downs inside the 8 to turn back a 78-yard drive on the 2. Then Van Brocklin provided the upper hand by directing a 7-play, 75-yard advance, capped by his 26-yard toss to Streaky McDonald, who bolted ahead of defender Carl Tassif to make a pretty running catch in the end zone. Next time the Eagles got the ball, they moved 43 yards in 6 plays, with Sapp slanting through the middle to the right for the final 7 yards. The rookie set the stage for scoring by catching an 11-yard pass on the preceding play on a duplication of a play that had preceded McDonald's score. 4-yard Brown pass to lanky and Jerry Richardson capped a 6-play, 76-yard Baltimore drive shortly thereafter to enable the Colts to reduce the margin to 14-7 at the half. Late in the third quarter, the Eagles moved out to a 21-7 lead when McDonald took a 10-yard pass directly down the middle while racing diagonally to his left from the right side. He raced unheeded the remaining 24 yards into the end zone. Baltimore came back with a 76-yard drive at the start of the final period, capped by Allen Amici barely making the final yard on 4th down. And there's the scoring. There's nothing, going into the second period. 21-7. The Eagles were winning going into the 4th period. Here we go. He's got some rushing right here. Allen Amici was held in check. LG Dupree, only had Lyles. The Eagles here, a good, nice ride. Peaks to 7 for 17, but Barnes 9 for 53, Sapp 11 for 42. So they had 130 yards rushing. Colts only had 106, but once again, there's no Unitas. So Van Brocklin 15 out of 28. I mean, this is the 5th preseason game, exhibition game, whatever. And Brocklin was in there through every pass the Eagles had. Wow. And then Brown. Right? So I mean, unlike today where you got like quarterbacks aplenty, you might have a different quarterback every quarter in there in today's preseason. Back then, Van Brocklin went the whole way, and Brown went the whole way. Or at least passing wise. So, let's see, Tommy McDonald, 5 catches, 167 yards. It was just crazy. First downs, Eagles had 22. Baltimore had 19. But you can see the Eagles had, it was like 438 yards of offense. Wow. Compared to 276. Wow. All right. And unlike this, I don't know, what the hell is it? For 4 penalties for 55 yards. Wow, they got some big penalties called on them. And the Colts had 2 penalties. I'm not sure if that's a 10 or a 20. Looks like 10 maybe. So, all right, let's see here. Okay, so now we're going to go to the Baltimore Sun, the September 14th, 1959 edition of the Baltimore Sun. What does that have to say? All right, here we go. Victory string ends. Colt defense collapses. Victory string ends as the Eagles win 35-13. Here we go. Van Brocklin passes for 3 touchdowns. Ray Brown tested at quarterback before 15,929. Defensive Colts strong point in 4 straight exhibition victories was defenseless against Norm Van Brocklin and the Philadelphia Eagles, who crushed Baltimore Pro champions 35-13 at Franklin Field this afternoon. Although playing without the services of 3 All-Pro offensive players, 3 future Hall of Fame offensive players, Johnny Unitas, Lenny Moore, and Raymond Berry, the Colts' miserable showing cannot be blamed on their absence. Crowd of 15,929 will attest Van Brocklin had too much on the ball for the complacent Colts as he threw 3 scoring passes and generally confounded the Colt defense. Raymond Brown, who played in Unitas' place, wasn't all-pro material as a quarterback, but his performance was far superior to that turned in by the Colt defense. He could have been better if Moore and Berry had played too. Well, that's true too. Injuries prevented Moore and Berry from playing. Unitas had no excuse except Coach Weebank wanted to give Brown a thorough testing at quarterback. From now on, Unitas will carry the signal calling load. The 6 tons of fun of the Colt defensive line burlesqued their way through a performance which would have got them a gong in an amateur show. Don Joyce, regular defensive end, did not play because of an injury, replacing the usual 6 tons of fun to 5. So it's 5 tons of fun, I guess. Also missing from the defense was linebacker Bill Pellington and safetyman Johnny Sample. It is conceivable that the presence of Joyce, Pellington, and Sample might have stemmed the Eagle tide. As it was displayed, however, the Colt defense, particularly in the secondary, was outclassed. Eagles gained 438 yards. Not one of the hundreds of Baltimoreans who made the trip to cheer their team could have foreseen such a lopsided victory by the Eagles, who won their second exhibition in 5 outings. Even after looking at the statistics, one still can't believe the great superiority of the Eagles, who gained 438 yards against what has been described as the top pro defense. Van Brocklin's aerials accounted for 308 yards, while Billy Barnes and Theron Sapp accounted for most of the 130 yards gained on the ground with the explosive sweeps of the Colts' ends. While the Eagle offense was taking the Colt defense apart, the Eagle defense was containing most of the stuff Brown shot at it, with the result of the Colts gained. All right, let's go to the next one here. All right. The September 14th, 1959 edition of the Baltimore Sun. All right. All right. With the result, the Colts gained only 96 yards rushing and 180 passing. Brown completed 16 of 33 aerials, however, including one 4-yard touchdown pass to Jerry Richardson late in the second quarter. He also moved the Colts to several other scoring chances, but was only able to capitalize once more on a 1-yard plunge by Alan Amici in the fourth quarter. Meanwhile, his antagonist, Van Brocklin, was completing 15 of 28. Norm connected with his favorite touchdown partner, Tommy McDonald, for the first of 3 scores by this combination early in the second quarter to break the ice. The play covered 26 yards and concluded a 75-yard drive in 8 plays. A little later, Sapp upped the Eagle margin with a 7-yard scoring run after a push of 43 yards in 6 plays. After spotting the Eagles 14 points, Brown, who had been stymied on the Philadelphia 2 earlier in the first quarter, took the Colts into scoring territory on a 76-yard march, which took just 7 plays. The last play was a 4-yard pass to Richardson in the end zone. After 10 minutes of action in the third period, the Eagles scored their third touchdown on a 34-yard pass from Mr. Van Brocklin to Tommy McDonald. This drive covered 91 yards in just 7 plays. The Eagles were living up to their name. They were flying. Again, Brown got the Colts moving. This time he worked them 76 yards for the Colts' second and last score, a 1-yard plunge by Amici. However, Steve Myra's extra point attempt was blocked by Gene Johnson of the Eagles. To prove that the 1 point made no difference, the Eagles took the ensuing kickoff and scored in just 3 plays from their own 33. The payoff was a 55-yard pass and run by McDonald. Late in the game, an interception set up the Eagles' last score. Walt Kowalczyk bowled over from the 1 after a 30-yard advance. Once again, there's a lot of statistics for you. There's the scores. Yeah, they're the teams, the lineups. What do we got here? What do we got? Whoop. Toppled Colts can profit from the loss, says Eubank. Colts coach Weeb Eubank feels received an object lesson that might carry them a long way toward a repeat championship in the National Football League. How could a 35-13 trouncing by the Eagles yesterday serve as an object lesson and make the Colts a better team? By driving home physically a point Eubank has been harping on since he became coach of the Colts. That is, to win in this league, you have to play each game and each team like the championship was at stake. No longer can the Colts think of themselves as something special in the NFL. A determined bunch of Eagles plus a great passer, Van Brocklin, ripped off the glad rags of 4 straight exhibition victories and disclosed a team that can be had. 3 touchdowns, said Coach. Eubank said he had planned to play Raymond Brown only 3 quarters at quarterback, but it wasn't his fault. We were behind, and he was doing a good job, so I let him play all the way. What other second-string quarterback has got his team 3 touchdowns in exhibition games this year? Growled Eubank. What do you mean by 3 touchdowns? Eubank was asked. The Colts only scored twice. Brown got us 3 scores, said Eubank. Even if the officials took one away, that's what I mean. Remember, we had some key players out. Lenny Moore and Raymond Berry didn't play on the offense, and Don Joyce, Bill Pellington, and Johnny Sample were sidelined on defense. Unitas was kept out Not so much because he had a slight injury, but to give Brown a good shot at quarterbacking, which he won't get again unless Unitas gets hurt. From now on, Unitas will be doing all the quarterbacking starting Sunday against the Chicago Cardinals in Louisville. Both Unitas and Eubank had nothing but praise for Van Brocklin. Unitas said, when he's hitting, there is only one thing you can do, and that's to keep even in the scoring. Eubank, although disappointed in his defense, admitted Van Brocklin should get the credit. The Colt coach also said that he would like to have either Billy Barnes or Theron Sapp, two halfbacks who tore around the Colts' ends like they were in hot rods. Leo Sanford, veteran linebacker who came to the Colts from the Cards last year and helped Baltimore gain the championship, announced his retirement from pro football last night on the train ride back from Philadelphia. Sanford, who has been bothered with a bad knee, said, I could see the handwriting on the wall, meaning all the practice he has missed has put him so far behind the rest of the squad he could never hope to catch up. Asked if he expected to return to the game next year, Sanford replied, I don't know at this time. If my leg recovers, I might try again, but you can't tell about knees, which, I mean, back then, he's absolutely right. Louisiana Tech linebacker has undergone 2 operations on his knee in the last 5 months. Wow. He has been jogging the past week, but nothing more than that. His retirement leaves the Colts with 39 players, just 3 over the playing limit of 36. The new limit is 36. Apparently, it was 35 in 1958. Wow. Was announced yesterday by Burt Bell, commissioner of the National Football League, in anticipation of expansion. It was explained that the additional player on each team could be used as a starting point for new franchises. Weeb Eubank said, I'm glad to get an extra man. It makes my job easier. 3 Colt rookies, there are only 4, showed up well against the Eagles. Hal Lewis, despite a broken hand, played a good game at halfback, making several excellent catches. Jerry Richardson and Dave Scherer, and candidates, also gave a top performance. Is that it? I guess so. Now, what do we got here? Bobby Walston of the Eagles grabs a Norm Van Brocklin pass for a 15-yard gain as Milt Davis, Colt halfback, closes in during the second quarter action in pro football at Franklin Field. There you go. You see the sparse crowd, right? See all the empty seats over here? So, wasn't a lot of people at that game. All right, so we got one more right here. Or a couple more articles here. Let's see if I can find them, of course. Let's see. We gotta find them here. Oh, here we are. Here we are. Okay. All right. Eagles' new look throws roadblock at champs. So quarterback Johnny Unitas, and this is I believe this is the This is the Philadelphia Bulletin. This is the September 14th, 1959 edition of the Philadelphia Bulletin. All right. So quarterback Johnny Unitas, Ray Berry, and halfback Lenny Moore didn't get to play. That doesn't water down the great game the Eagles played yesterday when they upset the world champions 35-13. Weeb Eubank, who should know better than anyone, was the first to admit it. Our offense didn't lose the game, the Baltimore Colts insisted when asked if the absence of 3 stars had made the difference. We were beaten on defense. One of the Baltimore writers shook his head sadly. It should have been on the television, he said. We can write about it, but who's going to believe it? Who would believe? Oh, there we go. What do we got here? Shaken loose for Eagles touchdown is Theron Sapp, getting past Colts Jackie Simpson right and Art DiCarlo in second period yesterday. Key to Sapp's success was his fine block by Jerry Huth, who took out Simpson. Believe that the greatest defensive line in pro football could be out-hustled and outplayed by phalanx of kids who were supposed to be greener than their Eagles uniforms. Obviously, guards Jerry Huff and Darryl Oshbacher and tackle J.D. Smith believed it. The three newcomers teamed with sophomore tackle Proverb Jacobs and veteran center Chuck Bednarik to spring the Eagles' horses through Big Daddy Lipscomb and company for a preseason high for 130 yards. It was a beautiful sight to see. They really did a job, said the man behind the job, like line coach Nick Scorch. But don't forget those guys on defense. They were in there too. No reminder was needed. In fact, many observers felt the turning point of the game might have come late in the first quarter when the Colts had first down and goal to go on the 8-yard line and the Eagles held. After that, the Birds dominated the action in every department to sock on the champs' first loss in 5 preseason games. Offensively, Norman Brocklin and Tommy McDonald combination was the big punch. It clicked for scoring plays of 26, 34, and 55 yards, and each of McDonald's catches was a dilly. On the 55-yarder, little Tommy did everything the veteran defender Carl Tassett but tie his shoelaces together. But the new look to the Eagles' attack was the running game. The winners reversed their usual pass and run ratio by getting off 32 rushing plays to 28 passes. Billy Barnes and rookie Theron Sapp, a pair of hustlers from the same mold, were the standout runners with 53 and 42 yards respectively. Weeb Eubank nailed it down nicely by explaining, when I say our defense did a bum job of running, it's just another way of saying the Eagles did a great job of blocking. The Eagles' first TD provided an excellent working example of what the running game means to a balanced offense. Barnes turned right end for 18 yards. Clarence Speaks made 5 to the left on a stutter play. Sapp stabbed through the middle for 11, and then the defense stacking. Van Brocklin calmly flipped to McDonald for a 26-yard score. Losing coach Eubank was philosophical. At least I found what I was looking for, said Weeb, referring to the Colts' need for a quarterback to spell Unitas. Ray Brown played the entire game at that position, completed 16 of 33 passes for 199 yards, and ran twice for gains of 17 and 23 yards. Eubank also felt the licking would cure the Colts of complacency. As I said, I mean, if you had Lenny Moore out there and Raymond Berry out there, quite possibly Brown's passing numbers would have been even better. McDonald scored 5 for 167 yards and 3 touchdowns, bringing his preseason record to 26 catches in 5 games. Wow, in preseason. For 570 yards and 9 touchdowns in only 5 games. He had 9 touchdowns. Already blessed with 2 of his finest ends in the NFL, in Berry and Jim Mutscheller, the Colts have come up with 2 fine replacements in rookies Jerry Richardson and Dave Scherer. Richardson grabbed 6 passes for 97 yards, scored the first Baltimore touchdown. All right, we got here. This is the we got here. Billy Barnes. Yeah, when I was kind of getting this, there was like a ball of hair or something on there. It was driving me crazy. Caught a pass from Norman Brocklin in yesterday's game against the Colts at Franklin Field. Art DiCarlo slowed down Brown or something like that. I can't remember what it says there, but there you go. Van Brocklin to McDonald. Aerials help Eagles crush Colts 11. For the first time in their spotty exhibition season, the Eagles produced a running game to complement Norman Van Brocklin's peerless passing as they crushed the world champions 35-13 before 15,928 impressed onlookers in Franklin Field yesterday. Eagle runners gouged the big Baltimore defensive line, rated the best in the league for 130 yards, while Van Brocklin riddled the Colts secondary for 308 yards and 3 touchdowns, all of them caught by Tommy McDonald, who had the sweating fans gasping in amazement. In 5 preseason games, the Oklahoma Whirlwind has set what must be an unofficial NFL record, counting for 5 passes he caught against the Colts for 167 yards. His total thus far is 26 catches, 570 yards, and 9 touchdowns. You'd be hard-pressed to find many wide receivers in preseason nowadays going to have those kind of numbers. I also expect, they only play 3 preseason games, but he's got to be ranked among the very best, Colt. Weeb Eubank commented, with a guy like Van Brocklin throwing, McDonald is impossible at times to defend. His speed is blinding. Eagle coach Buck Shaw smiled freely but talked tightly. Although obviously pleased by the team's second preseason victory against a tough adversary, he merely said, "We were up for this one while the Colts, had slacked off. It was a game was needed. It will give the team confidence in its capabilities." Line coach Nick Skorich was more specific. The line play offensively and defensively was vastly improved, he said. There was some real good blocking by Jerry Huff, Darryl Oshbacher, J.D. Smith, and Proverb Jacobs. Jacobs' job was to handle Big Daddy Lipscomb, the 6'6", 288-pound defensive tackle. Proverb handled Big Daddy better than most, but admitted it was a real tough assignment. Man, he sure is big and strong. Eagle defensive achievements, including 2 rock-ribbed goal line stands, one of which stopped Alan Horsamichi cold on the 3-yard line. Standout stalwarts were Jesse Richardson, Lee Meadows, and Don Owens. With few exceptions, the Eagles dominated the game throughout as the backfield quartet of Billy Barnes, Theron Sapp, Walt Kowalczyk, and Clarence Peaks ripped and snorted for long and short gains. The crowd was particularly enchanted with Barnes and Sapp, the rookie from Georgia. Between them, they belted the Colts defense for 95 yards plus 72 more on pass catches. It's axiomatic, that a team is as strong as its reserves, and it was obvious that without Lenny Moore, Johnny Unitas, and Raymond Berry, the Colts were not repeat title timber. Moore cut his hand while trying to take a bread knife from his small son. Ooh. Berry, the star end, had a bad leg, and Unitas was asked to sit out this head knocking while Ray Brown took the acid test. After a scoreless first period, marked by Dick Bielski's missed field goal from the 47 and an abortive Colt drive to the 3, the Eagles got down to business with a 75-yard drive that needed only 7 plays to score. Highlights were a 16-yard catch to Bobby Walston, an 18-yard sprint by Barnes, an 11-yard catch to Sapp, then Van Brocklin's 26-yard lofter to McDonald, who got way behind Carl Tassif to score unmolested. Walston added the first of 5 PATs. Sapp was the hero of the next scoring offensive, accomplished in 11:15 of the second period. The 200-pound Georgian, who runs with short, dogged steps, took a pitch out for 9 yards and a pass for 11. Then from the 8, he smashed through right tackle and cut back for the touchdown. Near the close of this period, the Colts made it 14-7, with Brown throwing for 49 yards to Jerry Richardson and then passing the rookie end for 4 yards for the score. Steve Myra kicked the extra point. After the intermission, the Eagles passed up on a 4th and 1 situation in favor of a field goal try from the 3. Bielski missed. Can you believe that? A 10-yard field goal try and he missed? Holy cow. The Eagles did miss, though, on their next sortie. A 91-yard featuring the sensational catching of McDonald. Tommy's contributions were a 37-yard catch taken on his shoe tops and a 34-yard grab, which he snared at full speed on the 20 while cutting across the middle with the Colts in vain pursuit to the goal line. Came the 4th period, and the Eagles added 2 more to the Colts' 1. The Colts were first to score. Owens grabbed Brown's fumble on the Baltimore 15 after knocking him loose from the ball. But the officials called defensive holding, and the Colts got the ball back on their 29. Trapped again, Brown wriggled free and ran for 17 yards. A pass to Harold Lewis and an interference penalty called against the Eagles put the ball on the 19. But from there, the Colts had to sweat like draft horses, with Amici finally punching over from the 1-foot line. Eagle defensive back Gene Johnson blocked Myra's try for the point. The Eagles hoisted it to 28-13 at 7:51 of the final period. Only 3 plays were needed to cover 67 yards. The 2 plunges by Sapp made a first down on the 45. From there, Van Brocklin fired to McDonald, who circled around Tassif on the 20, grabbed the ball, and scored on a brilliant 55-yard maneuver. A leaping one-handed interception by rookie linebacker John Nocera cleared the way for the Eagles' final score from the Colt 30. Walshland caught a throw on the 15, and Ken McAfee snared another on the 1-foot line from where Kowalczyk plowed over. There you go. So that was once again, it's just, it's preseason, but of course it does, it's like, it kind of helps also. Yeah, I mean, obviously Lenny Moore wasn't in there, Raymond Berry wasn't in there, Johnny Unitas was in there. The Colt quarterback probably would have done better. They might have scored more. He certainly probably would have had better statistics if you got 2 Hall of Fame offensive players out there that didn't play. I mean, and they were threats. Lenny Moore on any play can take it the distance, and on any play, Raymond Berry could get open and catch a pass. So. But once again, it was preseason. But obviously, when you play, you play to win the game. Hello, as Herm Edwards said one time in a very, very funny post-game news conference. Classic. You can check it out on YouTube. So, but once again, it was preseason. Each team had one more game left to go. And then they were often running on the regular season. And, for the most part, it was very successful season for both teams. Of course, the Colts would repeat as champions. They were champions, obviously, in 58. They would finish at 9-3, and they would win the championship game against the Giants 31-16. Except for the Eagles, 58, I think they had 2 wins. And then, they go from 2 wins to 7 wins, plus 5 in one season. That's a fantastic season. And, of course, it wasn't a fluke because the next season they would go on to a 10-2 record, and they would win the championship in 1960 over the Green Bay Packers, 17-13 at this very Franklin Field. So that's the way it was on this date, September 13th, 1959, as the Baltimore Colts took on the Philadelphia Eagles at Franklin Field. Pro football, first 50 years. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.